What up, YouTube? Welcome back for another video starring yours truly. It is another comics review, and one would be for, I guess, the month of October. So we're getting closer to current times. This month was another mix of old, mostly new with a little bit of old, and it's very Turtles heavy. So we'll get right into it, and of course we usually start with the Turtles. So a little while back, you may remember, I think it was the G.I. Joe line did a series of Saturday morning cartoon, or Saturday morning adventures it was called, with some more basic kind of storylines and a more cartoony version of it. And the Turtles have started that as well. So here is the Saturday morning adventures version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the debut issue. In this one, the weather's been really lousy in New York City. It's been raining and pouring cats and dogs for a long time, so the turtles are like, oh, we don't want to go out on patrol. It's miserable out there. So Donnie's like, I know what we can do. We can go test out this new VR machine I made, and go into the virtual world and get a workout and get some action in without having to go outside. So they go into the game, and Donnie's like, I programmed in some of our real life enemies, so Shredder's there and stuff like that, and Bebop and Rocksteady. While they're in there, a lightning blast hits a transformer nearby and kind of overloads the system. Donnie tries to back them out of it, but it's caused a glitch, so they're stuck inside there until they can capture a flag in this world. So they basically have to fight through all their enemies and get this flag to get out. And along the way, there's some Street Fighter themed games along the way, as well as a lot of kart racing. So they kind of mix in some video game styles within this virtual reality environment. So pretty cool storyline. I thought it was pretty neat, and I always love it when they throw shoutouts to classic video games and stuff like that in these kinds of things. Next up, the regular ongoing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series number 133. So in this one, the Turtles are back from training with Oroku Saki, the 9 cuts, the mystical moves. So they're getting ready for the coming storm. Excuse me. Donnie is at home base, kind of monitoring things all around. Jenny is off talking with Sally, who's now like the new mayor of Mutant Town, and Jenny has agreed to be like kind of her main kind of patrol person. So after Jenny and Sally talk about things, Jenny hits the streets and starts patrolling and starts to try and be a good ambassador to the residents of Mutant Town, while at the same time keeping the peace. And then what else happens? Oh God, I'm getting them mixed. You'll see why I'm getting mixed up here. Oh yeah, and Mona Lisa has taken over Mikey's kind of radio gig, and she's broadcasting news across Mutant Town to all the residents. Now, near the end of the issue, Donnie makes mental contact with Venus, that turtle that was kind of hacked up by that mad doctor, and she's actually at the Foot Clan, kind of training with Bludgeon and trying to calm herself down and find her way through these changes that have come over her since this mad doctor's experiments on her. And Donnie's trying to get her to come to the Turtles' side. So they have this mental kind of conversation, and she's not quite ready. And right after this happens, Baxter Stockman, the mayor of New York, is giving a press conference or something like that, and all of a sudden the press conference is busted in on by what looks to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they take them hostage, and they're bullying their way through everything and causing a big scene. And it's obviously not the real Turtles, but most people are fooled by this, and so all of a sudden there's riots in the streets with the residents of Mutant Town turning on everybody because the Turtles were supposed to be this representatives of Mutant Town and peacekeepers and bringing about the best of mutants, right? So all of a sudden everybody sees them turning, and so it causes this big riot. And at the end of the issue, we see, I think, Donnie get in touch with their friend Angel, saying, you got to help us. There's this big energy reading spiking up, and I don't know what it is, and all of a sudden it explodes. And the last thing we see as the issue ends off is this new team of mutants arrive on the scene through what must have been a portal or something, and it's led by this big kind of dog-looking guy. And then that's kind of the end of the issue. Tying into this is the Armageddon gang, the Armageddon game, issue 1. This ties directly into the Rat King's. It's more detailed. It delves further into the storyline that is going on in the main books. And so in this one, it kind of it takes place in the same time frame as that issue I just talked about. So it starts off with kind of a brief cutscene of the Rat King going to talk to a couple of his sisters about what's coming, what he's got on the horizon, and then shifts to the meanwhile, where Shredder unites the Splinter Clan and the Foot Clan under the leadership of Karai. The Foot Clan under the leadership of Karai, not the Splinter Clan. And he forms an overall strategy for how they're going to deal with the Rat King. So basically, again, they've got Donnie kind of manning the main fort. Mikey and Leo head to Dimension X, to Planet Neutrino. If you remember the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon series, for fuck's sake, it's the hot rodding teenagers from Dimension X was the episode that the Neutrinos first showed up in, and they like drove these flying hot rods, and they're all in Daddy-O, and they're into old rock music and stuff like that. So that's who they go back to see, because they want to enlist the Neutrinos' help in fighting off this Rat King scheme. But the king of Neutrino, Planet Neutrino, was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't help you." But as he turns them away, he says, "But the two guys they really came to see, but whoever are due for some vacation time, so they can see you away, unofficially, of course." So he essentially says, "We can't help you," but then he sends two of his people away with the turtles, so they do get a little bit of help there. Casey Jones is monitoring the walls of Mutant City. Angel is monitoring the shorelines and the shipping area. Raph and Jenny are trying to track down Hob, because they want to enlist Hobbs, even though he's kind of an enemy. This thing with the Rat King is a lot bigger than past grudges, so they're trying to recruit Hob to their cause, only they can't find him, so they have to go talk to one of his former associates, the Crab guy. That's kind of a grump and a bit of a whack job. So they go and talk to him and try and convince him to help them out and find Hob. And in the meantime, there's this fight going on. What looks like Leatherhead, the big crocodile mutant, but he's got an Utrom in his stomach, and there's a bunch of mutants trying to take him down, and eventually they do. And the Rat King visits Madame Null, and then they have this mutant flown in, and it seems to be part of his scheme. And that's kind of basically the extent of the issue, and it ends as well as these fake Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles assault the Mayor Baxter Stockman at his press conference. So it's all other stuff leading up to that same moment that other issue ends with. So I had to kind of go through each of them there and kind of sort out, okay, which events happen in which issue, because they are very similar. There's a lot of the same events that they gloss over in each one, right? So so this thing with the Rat King is starting to cook up, and I've read the next number of issues, of course, so you'll get to see very soon just what the Rat King is indeed up to. Now, the back issues I have for this month are all Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So the first one is the original Archie series, issue number 50. In this one, the Turtles, minus Donatello, are fighting in deep space against, I forget his name, some alien guy. They eventually are able to turn this guy away and escape in a spaceship, and they go back to this black hole where Donatello is. Now Donatello, in the meantime, has got his hands on this white orb that enlightens him. Like, he grabs it and his eyes turn white, and he can basically, I can see and hear everything. Like, it's full of power and knowledge, right? and he starts acting very un-Donatello-like. And so this alien that's with him, I forget his name as well, he's like, Donatello, fight it, you can't, this thing's gonna destroy you, you can't, you're not like this, right? So this alien tries to fight back against Donatello, eventually gets the orb away from him, and uses the orb to collapse the black hole and close off that kind of what was the black hole was basically like a teleport gate sort of thing. So he closes that off and sends Donatello back to his side of space with his turtle brothers, and kind of sacrifices himself to see Donatello return safely and everything work out okay, sort of thing. Next up, the next issue, number 51. In this one, there's a woman and a mutant named Chameleon in Tel Aviv, Israel, eavesdropping or trying to get involved in some sort of gang activity. I'm not sure what exactly their end game there was. I don't remember. But basically, the job gets botched. Chameleon gets kind of hurt, and they're nursing their wounds in their hotel room in Israel or whatever, when they see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles glossed over on the TV news. And Chameleon's like, whoa, those turtles were there when I got turned into this chameleon stuff. We're heading to New York City, right? So basically they head to New York and they track down the turtles as the turtles themselves, with April O'Neil, are trying to track down a gang of thieves in New York City. So Chameleon gets involved with them, and a battle ensues as this theft is underway. And in the end, after the dust settles, the turtles kind of have to light out because something, whatever it was, some sort of object gets stolen from this facility, and Chameleon's nowhere to be found. So they're like, well, we got to get out of here. And we see the thieves wheeling out a crate, which actually is Chameleon. So Chameleon has gone away with these thieves, and he's gonna do whatever sort of thing. So that's how it ends. And last one, issue 52. This one kind of doesn't really continue off from the last one, but kind of. There's a at this show called Inside Affair or something like that, there's a cameraman named Squint along with one of his co-workers, and they want to get a good scoop on something, right? So they kind of follow April and her friend, I forget her friend's name, as they're investigating more thievery. And along with the turtles, they head underground, and they find this weird organic material left behind that almost looks like organs and living tissue. They make their way further into the sewer, and soon enough they come face to face with 3 large mutants, 2 of them dwelling in the sewer kind of together, and then a third one that comes in from elsewhere in the sewer and engages them, and eventually all 3 of these big mutants are fighting the turtles and stuff, but then the 2 turn on the one that showed up later, and they start fighting each other, and in the end, basically, I'm not sure what kind of resolution there was, because again, I read this so long ago, but basically the turtles escape with their lives, and they have to rescue Squint, as he followed everybody in there and got himself in trouble, and hopefully he learned his lesson, right? But do New York City cameramen who follow April O'Neil into the sewers ever seem to learn their lesson? Next, of course, is Transformers. Just a couple new issues to go over with this. The first one up is the second issue of the Shattered Glass 2 series, which debuted in my last video. And this one's kind of cool. we see it opens up with the Autobot Blaster, who was basically the Autobots' answer to Soundwave. Also turns into a cassette player and is all about music and sound and whatnot. He's out doing what he does with his little cassette tape buddies, Ramhorn, no, not Ramhorn, Steeljaw and Eject and those guys, when he is approached by Slicer, who is actually like it's Wheeljack's character, but he's called Slicer in this series, and Rodimus, and they approach him. They're both wreckers, so they both have bad attitudes and they're very violent. They approach Blaster and they have they question his loyalty to the Autobot cause, and they have a job for him. Rodimus the whole time is like, let me just off this guy, I can't stand him, right? He's useless. And Slicer's like, no, we can use him, he can be useful, let's give him a chance. And so the job they have for him is to shut down Decepticon Radio, which is basically Soundwave's Decepticon propaganda communications network sort of thing. So Blaster's like, no problem, on it. So he infiltrates the Decepticon facility, eavesdrops on Jetfire and Megatron having some sort of an argument, and uses some sound vibration technique to escalate the argument by making them both a little irritated. But before anything could really come of that, he moves on and finds Soundwave's home base for the Decepticon radio, and he starts messing with stuff, starts copying a lot of the information, but before he can finish the job and destroy the actual communications network, Soundwave shows up and questions what Blaster's doing, and he tries to do it peacefully, but Blaster's not having it. A fight ensues, and eventually Blaster just escapes, gets back to Slicer and Rodimus, and reports that he's got some information for them, but he wasn't able to destroy the communications network because of interference from Soundwave. And Rodimus is like, you useless piece of shit. Awesome. Head gone. Blaster's head is now away from his body. So, and that's how it ends, with kind of Slicer and Rodimus departing the scene with a headless Blaster's corpse in their wake, sort of thing. So we will see what happens next time. But I think Blaster should have taken that assignment a little more seriously, given that Rodimus was ready to off him before that he was even offered the assignment, right? So kind of his fault in a way. Now, next up, just trying to find. Yeah. Issue number 43 of the regular ongoing Transformer series. This one's been drawn out for a little while. So basically, we still have in the Rust Sea or whatever, the rust worms have been kind of running rampant, and they're chasing the Autobots. So Optimus Prime is leading a number of bots there in a defense / retreat from these rust worms. In the meantime, Hound is leading the defense of Darkmount against the Insecticon plague that is encroaching on them, and so they have these kind of engagements going on these two different fronts. And in the meantime, Smokescreen is leading a small team into the lair of the Insecticons with a device that hopefully, when activated from Darkmount, will allow the Autobots to have some sort of control over the Insecticon horde, which is basically their last chance to not get devoured by it. So the fighting's getting desperate. Termagax even sacrifices her. Remember she had the building, the walking house Transformer thing with all the missile turrets and everything. She even sacrifices that to buy them more time. Things are looking grim when Smokescream's team is able to pull it off. The device is activated, and what they do to save their bacon is basically turn the Insecticons on the rustworms. So they get the Insecticons away from them and from attacking them, and they get them to attack the rustworms and destroy all the rustworms. So it's basically a two birds with one stone sort of thing, right? As the issue comes to a close, the last thing we see as Optimus Prime and his small team are, marching to Darkmount or wherever they're going after the rust worms are being eaten, is Skywarp suddenly warp in out of nowhere saying, "I've got an imploder device on me which I can wipe out this whole area. So if you so as move one more steel muscle, kiss your ass goodbye." Kind of a cliffhanger we're ending on here. I can't wait to reread it to remember what happens next. Last up, we have a couple of G.I. Joe issues, the third last and second last issue of the current ongoing series. So first up is issue 298. In this one, basically the fighting is still continued. Genghis Khan, remember Snake Eyes and Dawn were engaging him. They take the fight to him, and they're doing pretty well, but eventually the Cobra forces back off and eventually gas the room that they're in and knock them out. So Dr. Mindbender is like, take him to the brainwave scanner, we're gonna put him in there. But eventually Snake Eyes is rescued by Laura, the Crimson Guards woman, who has been kind of Dr. Mindbender's right-hand woman this whole time after she showed her competence many issues ago during the original capture of Snake Eyes. And she's like, "You're letting me walk out of here with Snake Eyes alive and there's nothing you can do about it," holding the gun to Dr. Mindbender's head, right? So she's had this change of heart as to her allegiances. Meanwhile, the Joes are still flying in from the pit. They're getting really close to the island. They meet up with some resistance from the shoreline as the Cobra's firing missiles and shit at them. The team on the ground is still fighting their way back towards the Cobra headquarters, like Scarlet, Roadblock, Jinx, all those guys, to make sure they get Dawn and Snake Eyes back. And Revanch the whole while is continuing to monitor things and saying, "Oh, how do we take advantage of this situation?" And also Cutter and Shipwreck are in the G.I. Joe Whale, the hovercraft, on the shoreline, also ready to engage. So they come in to join the fray. So basically it's everybody's converging on this spot to help settle however this is going to turn out, right? And right at the end of the issue, we see Genghis Khan notice Serpentor's kind of suit of armor on a wall somewhere, and the last thing we see is him emerging in it from a doorway with dressed up in Serpentor's armor, and he's now calling himself Serpentor Khan. Works for me, right? Works for me. Oh no, sorry. Laura doesn't take off with Snake Eyes until the start of this issue. So Snake Eyes and Dawn were still captive that whole last issue. But that's how this one begins. Serpentor Khan emerges onto the scene with Mindbender, but Laura's like, "I'm taking Snake Eyes and Dawn with me." Basically the same thing. They escape. They meet up with the other Joes. They kick a lot of ass. Dr. Mindbender actually has a clone of Snake Eyes on hand that he was able to create, like I said, back when Laura first helped capture Snake Eyes many issues ago. So he puts him in the chamber where Genghis Khan, like the similar type of chamber where Genghis Khan was cloned in and brought to life. He's going to bring a clone of Snake Eyes to life under his control to help fight back against the Joes. So yeah, we see a big reunion of the Joes in the jungle with Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes and everybody, and eventually at the end of the issue, the last thing we see is similar to Genghis Khan. We see Snake Eyes emerge from his cloning vat and kind of look around and then grab a sword that's sticking into the ground and pull it out. So he's going to do something, but is he really under Dr. Mindbender's control? Or is he like, Snake Eyes, and he's gonna go kick some Cobra ass? Again, something I'll have to reread to find out what happens next. I love getting old and having no memory. It's great. Bye-bye.